Welcome to Smart Remarks, where Tom Corbett wants you to have greater access to alcohol. Just don't cross the border to get it. So if you live near the Pennsylvania border with Maryland and Delaware, you might on occasion be tempted to cross the border to pick up booze at a lower cost. It's illegal, but it's a silly old law. And it's a no harm, no foul sort of thing. Pennsylvania does lose tax revenue, which is probably the reason for the law in the first place. But it's widely flouted, but you got to watch out because every now and then the county mounties will be on your trail. Last weekend, Memorial Day weekend, Pennsylvania State Police conducted a sting in Delaware. Apparently the state troopers hung around 2 Delaware malls, ended up busting a couple people, issued 3 summary citations, confiscated a grand total of 414 bottles of beer, 123 bottles of wine, and 15 bottles of liquor. Justice! But wait, was this cost-effective law enforcement? Did this detail pay for itself in terms of the fine levied? Or were state police there to prove some sort of point? And just what might that point have been? As is well known, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Corbett wants to privatize our liquor sales. The issue's cooled down a bit, but just this past week, Corbett told a crowd up here in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, that privatization remains a priority. Quote, "Government has no business being in the business of liquor sales. Its focus should be on enforcement," he said. And I thought, enforcement? You mean like busting people who bring booze across state lines? Understand, I'm not saying Corbett or his push for privatization had anything to do with the state police's actions. I'm not saying they were politically motivated. But if you think about it, it does make a pretty succinct argument for privatization. Hey, you wouldn't have to cross the border to go get booze if we privatized here in Pennsylvania. You'd save money, you'd save gas money. You wouldn't have to constantly look over your shoulder. But if we don't privatize, well, you might be in trouble if you're breaking that archaic law because border bleed is real and the Republicans who hate taxes will bust you if you don't pay those taxes. So if we don't privatize, you better keep an eye on your rear view mirror. But accepting that this wasn't politically motivated, let's get back to the issue of was this cost effective? As Delaware County Times columnist Chris Friend asked, how much taxpayer money was wasted on logistics, fuel costs, and trooper salaries compared to the minuscule tax Pennsylvania lost? The numbers aren't even in the same ballpark, so what were they doing? In an era of scarce resources, how wise is it to spend money enforcing the quote-unquote law like this? I think of this same thing every time I see one of those DUI checkpoints. Are there no violent crimes to be investigated? Are there no real cases to be solved? Proponents of liquor privatization here in Pennsylvania say that Pennsylvania's liquor laws are archaic and obsolete. I'd agree with that, especially this law about bringing booze across state lines, and particularly at a time when these border stings could be perceived as political. It might be good for the Pennsylvania State Police just to back off, because if this becomes part of the debate, it's going to look like it was intentional.